You know, on March 4th of 2020, Abbott Laboratories was awarded a federal grant. On that same day, John Curtis purchased stock in that company. This is the problem in Congress. At a time when somebody should be looking out for their constituents, they end up looking out for their own profit. That's why I've signed a contract with Utah. I want to ban the trading of individual stocks for members of Congress and their families. I want to also stop members of Congress from retiring and becoming lobbyists and enriching themselves further. This is the problem that we have. And you know what? I've stood up to the establishment time and time again. I've done it throughout my entire career as I challenged Mitt Romney, willing to primary him in this election. I've now received the endorsements of so many national conservatives, to include Senator Rand Paul and also President Trump. I have that coalition of people I can go back and work with day one that will go ahead and represent Utah and further its interests more than anybody else here on this stage.
We will have to wrap it up on that note. I'm sorry, we are out of time.
Respond to that.
Real quick, as fast as possible.
Trent, that is such a low shot. You wait till I have no response. You throw something out I can't respond to. You've accused me of a felony here tonight. You better have very good evidence, and I'd like to challenge you to produce that evidence that somehow I've committed a felony. And if that's how you're going to work in Senate, the people of Utah would be very disappointed.
And what's up, Utah? Welcome back to We Are the People Radio. It's your host, Jason Preston. And as you've seen from the intro, we are going to be talking about the debate last night. It was pretty fire, and it's been insane listening to the news today. KSL has come out and starting to run their propaganda machines, which I'm shocked because it's funny how, those of us who watched the debate, it was very clear that, that Staggs was dominated that. And then Curtis was caught off guard at the end and got upset, accused him of saying that that was a felony, or calling a felony. And you'd think the news was going to, you'd wake up today and the news be like, wow, let's look at these insider trading. So I'm excited because today we actually have Trent Staggs back in the office. On the show. Trent, how are you?
I'm good. A little sleep deprived, but you know what? We've got a couple weeks to win this thing, so we're going to go for it.
I mean, you've been running now for
over a year.
Oh, it's been over a year?
May 23rd, 2023. May 23rd.
And this is really the home stretch because this is, it's really all about primaries, because once primaries, then it's you and the Democrat. But, so how are you hanging in there?
We're doing great. I mean, we've got several polls that are showing us close to Curtis. About a third of folks are still undecided, which is shocking to me given the millions and millions of dollars that Curtis has put in, along with his super PACs from his climate change billionaire buddies. Mm-hmm. That one guy alone put in $5 million. So we're seeing more money spent in a Senate primary or federal race than I think I've ever seen.
It's crazy. I don't watch TV, but when I'm at the gym doing cardio, the TV's there, and I will tell you, I get just so ticked off when I see his commercials, and I swear they're on every couple of minutes. Because I usually see a few of them and I'm not doing that much cardio. And the thing that ticks me off is it's like one lie after another with this guy, and it's like, one of the things I've been thinking about is like, we have a problem here. Because I look at that commercial he's running, and every single thing, and we're going to play the commercial, we're going to get out in a minute, but every single thing is a lie. I'm thinking, what's the check against that? And you know what I thought the check against that is?
Yeah, it's the caucus system. It's the caucus convention system.
But
that is how we were able to unseat three-term incumbent Senator, Bob Bennett with Mike Lee. And it's 4,000 people that have been voted in by their respective neighborhoods to represent and vet all these candidates. And they came back. That's what I said in my opening statement of the debate yesterday. Why do you think you're the most qualified was the question, the very first one. And I said, because I won 70% of the delegates at convention. It was unprecedented. These people have spent hours and hours and hours vetting all these folks, and they have to support that decision back at their neighborhoods. So they take it very seriously. They said overwhelmingly, I'm the best one that's suited to represent our state. But because of SB 54, we've got 3 people that have bought their way on the ballot. That's exactly what they've done. They paid their way to get on the ballot. And we're having to have this very, very expensive primary. And you have that because you're now, instead of 4,000 folks that are representative of their neighborhoods, you're hitting 900,000 registered Republicans, many of which are incredibly busy. That's why they try to select somebody in their caucus to represent them and go and do that work on their behalf. But everybody gets a mail-in ballot, so they're marking it, trying to be as informed as they can. But if their information doesn't fall any further than what's in front of them on the TV and these commercials, yeah, with $12 million that Curtis has got, you can paint yourself to be anybody you want to be.
Right. Well, I think you're right. So the first check should be the caucus system. Is in theory, according to the how this state, our Constitution, it's a representative form of government, including the caucus system and how we elect representatives. Well, you're right. SB 54 has gone around that, and so now we have a thing where it's the average low information voter who's making a decision. Well, can I also add that it's more than that too. It's now put it in a position where money is everything. Right.
I mean, Jason, I'll be honest. I love this country. I always believe it's a meritocracy, right? You can do anything you want. I mean, I was able to become a city council person, then a mayor. I worked hard. I knocked almost every door in my city, and people saw me. They were able to engage in conversation, and I could do it. I could win that election. Here, it's all about money.
Yeah.
And it's sad. So no wonder, you look at my 3 opponents, they're all multimillionaires, and they've put millions of their own money into this race. And you've got Curtis, that is not only a multimillionaire and put money into this race, but he's got $10, $12 million now in outside money, largely from climate change folks that are now influencing the election in our state. And that's because it requires so much money, you're limiting the type of people that will either ever run for office or that can realistically ever win.
Right.
And so what happens, you get away from this, and I truly believe in this, that we have we should be represented by everyday Utahns, by just everyday people. The reason why I think our country's in so much trouble right now, and $35 trillion in debt, and open border and all this stuff, because we've elected people that don't care. They don't listen to the everyday American and the everyday Utahn. Why? Because they're not beholden to them.
Right.
They're either their own paychecks, funding their own way, or more often than not, it's because they've got special interest in these DC lobbyists or super PACs of climate change billionaires that are funding their campaigns. So, who do you think they're going to be? They're going to be more willing to listen to.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I also think that there is a responsibility of the press, the freedom of the press, to expose the corruption. I think that was one of the reasons for journalists is to expose. So when I'm watching Curtis up there and he says how everything he says in that commercial is almost not everything, but I think 3 out of 5 statements was an exact lie to how he actually votes. And my thought is, where's the check? And yes, of course, the Caucus, but in today's world where we have SB 54, the media, the conservative media should be the one that says, you know what, I'm a journalist, and we have representatives who are doing this, doing that. They're saying this, and if I turn into KSL, I turn into the Deseret News, the journalists would expose the corruption. And this is why we do this. Like, I don't like this. Like, this is not something like, hey, like my wife's not here today. Like, we have lives to live. We'd rather go live in Florida. We'd rather go on vacation, rather live a life. But the reason we do this is because this. Now I'm going to play what I woke up to. And by the way, this show, we're actually going to do a deep dive on John Curtis. But I wanted to get you in here early on because I think I want to give you a chance to respond to the news and to Curtis. So this is just something I recorded on my phone. I just happened to get in the car and I was out driving to work and I'm listening to this and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And I'm going to play this to our listeners so they can hear. And if you saw the debate, I'll put a link to the debate down below. But the crazy thing is the spin of the media. Here we go.
The debate was going to wrap up. But congrats to the moderator, Glenn Mills, who gave Curtis the time. reluctantly gave him the time, but he gave him the time. And here's where Curtis came back and said, hold on a minute. You haven't shown any proof, and you've just accused me of a felony.
You've accused me of a felony here tonight. You better have very good evidence, and I'd like to challenge you to produce that evidence.
And Staggs didn't produce anything. He didn't produce anything, and we've asked him, produce the evidence. Come on the show. Tell us what it is. If there's something there, if they're there, then let us know. I don't think there's a there.
Leah Murray, KSL at Night House.
So, and it goes on. But does that sound like unbiased news?
No, not at all. And look, Deb, I've got her phone number. She could call me. She indicated something right there. We reached out. No, they had somebody from KSL News that sent us an email late at night to my info@trentstaggs.com. It was forwarded on to us mid-morning, probably when that was going on, right? But she's got my phone number. She's texted me before and called me and asked me to come on their program, and she could have just as easily reached out to me and asked about some comment. Or how about this, Jason? How about the media actually do their job? How about they actually do their job? I mean, why is it that suddenly you get John Curtis at the end of that debate, who did have time to respond, which he shouldn't have, by the way. The moderator shouldn't have allowed him to. We had closing statements. And why did I bring it up at that point? Because I wasn't given an opportunity to bring up throughout the whole debate. That was the only time I could have brought up anything. And so there we did it. He was allowed to respond. I wasn't allowed to respond back, right? That I do have evidence of the fact that he did. That there was information, or the grant was given to Abbott Laboratories in a day in March of 2020. And that same day, he trades stock. Now, did I accuse him of a felony? No, I didn't. But that's something that
was
Curtis
interesting, because where did that come
to.
from? Where did that come from? That you accused me of a felony.
You know, what is he thinking? That, okay, in your mind, then what I just described is a felony, and it's something that you did. And we've shown that. And you've got the information.
So
that's in his mind.
In his mind, you accused me of a felony, which you didn't, which again is so crazy. So she says, is there anything there? So is there anything?
Oh yeah, well.
So show what do you have?
Well, I mean, there's many instances and articles that show that John Curtis profited.
Okay, this is one right here, right?
During the coronavirus.
Okay, Representative considering bid to replace Romney has a long history of timely stock trading while in office.
He's been at the top. I think every year he's been in office, he's been in the top 25. In several years, he's in the top 3 or 4, outperforming Nancy Pelosi. I mean, these guys are outperforming the S&P 500. They're such brilliant traders. I mean, they shouldn't even be in Congress. They should be trading full time if that's the way.
Curtis' purchase of Abbott Laboratories stock came on the same day the Food and Drug Administration granted the company authority to produce the fastest available COVID-19 tests.
That's right.
The congressman also bought stock in BlackRock on March 27th, which the Federal Reserve asked days earlier to purchase bonds on behalf of the government in anticipation of economic uncertainty during the pandemic. What does that tell you? First off, you're right.
Yeah, bingo.
John,
I'm right, and John Curtis lied on television. He lied and said that I accused him of something I did not. And in his own conscience, if that is a felony, then he's got some explaining to do and how he came to that information. I think it's wrong. This is something that's not new. Jason, I put out a contract with Utah last fall. My number one of 7 points, number one, is I want to ban the trading of individual stocks for members of Congress and their families. I've been saying this for, 7-8 months or more now.
Why is insider trading bad?
Well, and I want to be careful not to define it necessarily as insider trading, because that's illegal, whether you're a congressperson or not. But the problem with Congress is that they define the rules so broadly with some of these committee hearings that they're a part of and have information access to. They'll maybe define it as public information, where it's such a limited set of people that do know about it, but they can still act on it. I mean, Congressman Matt Gaetz has talked about this extensively. He has something in the House that he's forwarded on that he wants to prohibit this type of activity, and so does Senator Hawley. And the reason why, I think he's made a perfect analogy. He said, look, in as much as we don't allow referees to bet on the ball game, why on earth would we allow members of Congress to trade individual stocks?
Yeah, it's abhorrent.
We shouldn't. We
I
shouldn't
mean,
do it.
and what does Abbott Industries do? Have you brought that up? What they do?
No, Abbott Labs. Like you said, they were awarded something for a COVID-19 test. They've got
that's right. To produce the tests.
Offices all over.
So we're getting ready to go into a pandemic. You've got lawmakers whose sole responsibility is to serve and protect our God-given rights. They know this is coming. They know that they're going to be locking people down. And what is he out doing on March 27th? He's out investing.
He's out
in
trading.
Abbott Laboratories, BlackRock, Federal Reserve. He's out making money. And this is where I just have a problem, because it's like, you brought up earlier, it's supposed to be, our founding fathers intended for farmers to leave their farm, average grassroots people to leave the farm, people like us, people like me, just nobodies, to say, you know what, I see a problem, I'm going to go put my time in, I'm going to serve, I'm going to try to make this country better, go in there for a few years, and then go home.
That's why they call it public service.
And, and they've made it so that nobody can go in unless they have massive funding to be able to do, millions of dollars in TV ads. They've destroyed the caucus system, and Caucus is part of that too. I mean, Caucus has come out and laid war on the convention system, because they do not want people like me or average people like you to ever be able to enter their system of the elites.
That's right. Yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly why I believe that, why the establishment, this is why the narrative of my entire campaign has been one to rail against the establishment, because I think the establishment is what's destroying our country. It's taking us to the brink, and it's destroying our state. Then you got establishment players, because they don't care. They don't care about everyday Utahns. They care about amassing more power. And how can they do that? By ensuring that it isn't a smaller group of people that are making the decision. They need to try to get rid of the caucus system so that they can helicopter in millions of dollars, paint their candidate the way they think they need to, with high-priced consultants and everything. They tell them exactly what they need to say, how they need to say it.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
Well, and we're going to get into that show when we show the commercials where you can see they poll. This is what people want to say here. So here's what you're going to say, even though it is exactly opposite of how what their ideas, what their morals and their values are.
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
I never poll tested one thing in this campaign. Never. It's been straight from the heart.
Yeah.
And working with my campaign team and saying, you know what, that's why we've gotten so much support from the grassroots, is because they're like, wow, there's somebody that's actually my voice. Somebody's talking for me.
Right.
And I get up, and sometimes I'm accused of being a little too passionate, and I was accused of maybe yelling at the convention. I was raising my voice.
You did a great job there, by the way.
I was raising my voice
You did a great
because
job.
people are ticked off,
Yeah.
and rightfully so. Jason, you know that, and I'm grateful for your program and what you're doing, and I know it comes at a sacrifice for you too. So,
well, and that's really, I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I want to jump into Curtis and be able to do that without you having to be attached to it. But to our listeners and to KSL, shame on you guys, and to the Deseret News, like, that's just dishonest. Like, you have time that is your responsibility after this show, after the debate. That's your responsibility. Go look it up. Why is it average Joe, Jason, citizen can go and find all these articles, but KSL and Deseret News, you guys can't seem to, you expect him, he didn't have the burden of proof at the time of how many debates do you see where in the debate they pull up, here's the proof in the paperwork, and why don't you read it? That's not how it works. But you've got media running cover, trying to protect the balance, the power structure that's in place, and they're not doing their job. KSL, shame on you. You should have gone and done the research. It's not hard to find, and we're going to be going through it. And if you need help, just watch this show. But the fact of the matter, KSL and Deseret News, is you're not interested in the truth. You're interested in keeping the power structure in place. And anyone who's a threat to it, you guys do a very good job at discrediting them. So I'm a little irritated, because it shouldn't be regular citizens having to do the job of our journalists. They're paid.
Yeah. The media should, and the media shouldn't just take at face value what John Curtis said. He said I accused him of a felony, and I had to, in the media scrum after the debate, that was also on KUER. People can go look at it. Every candidate had about a 10-minute segment with a bunch of media, and it was dominated. This topic was dominating the media scrum. And we talked about it. I said, guys, go listen to what I said. I just stated on this day this happened, he traded stock. I never accused him of a felony. I said that there was a grant, a certain company that was going to produce COVID-19 tests, was given a federal grant. He knew that. And then he ended up trading stock while at a time when all of us were, right, going, what's happening here? And so at a time when he should have been looking out for his constituents, no, he was more concerned about making profit. And that's the problem. That's why I want to ban the trading of individual stocks for members of Congress. They shouldn't be allowed to do this. And often they're given access to information. Well, even though it might be publicly available, they're the first ones to learn of it.
Yeah, because again, here's my concern. Our borders are under attack. We're being invaded. Our dollar is literally on the verge of collapsing, especially with what's going on right now with the BRICS nations. The decisions our leaders are making, spending recklessly, sanctioning people so that the other nations are now dropping the dollar. I mean, the dollar is in massive trouble. The cities are turning to Gotham. You've got government coming out and locking up people in their homes, shutting down businesses. America the soul of our nation is under siege. And we've got representatives who their biggest thing is just staying in power and making money and using our tax dollars, using their time to serve the people as an opportunity to get ahead and to profit. And and this is not a partisan issue. No. I don't care if you're Democrat, I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care who you are. Any person who's going in there for the wrong motives, not to save the Constitution when it's hanging by a thread, we should be getting rid of. And the problem is we have a massive problem with misinformation in this state. And the funny thing is they always want to use misinformation pointing to anyone who's pointing out the corruption. And the reality is the real misinformation comes from our local media. So I want to give you a chance to give your final thoughts to our listeners because we're going to have this out here very quickly before hopefully you guys are not voting by mail. The people watching this, we're a little bit sharper. We know better than that because I will tell you what your reps say when Steve Christiansen presented to them in that committee meeting I told you about a few years ago where he was threatened and he and his wife were threatened. He was forced to step out of being a congressman. One of the representatives says, well, my constituents like mail-in voting, universal mail-in voting. And what Steve said, well, how do you know that? And he says, he says 80% of them use it, which means they like it. So do not be doing that. If you haven't done, don't do it. So will you give your closing thoughts? Last thing you want our listeners or potential voters to hear before we wrap this portion up?
Well, this is a big problem. You've highlighted something where the media just took what John Curtis said at face value. He lied. He said that I accused him of a felony. No, I did not. You go and take a look. I recited factually what had happened. It is the truth in his mind. If that constitutes a felony, then he needs to seek his own conscience as to why he did what he did. And the media needs to do their job. They need to do their job. Why is the onus on me to produce this when it's readily available? People can see it without a whole lot of issue. And the way in which he reacted so viscerally to it, And one of the things that he did too, the media reported that neither one of us shook hands at the end of the debate, and that he made a hot mic on a hot mic. He was caught saying that was a low blow. Well, they didn't. The media only reported a portion of that.
Yeah, I want you to share the whole thing because I heard from the same thing he said to Chris Herod.
Yeah. I mean, so he said that was a low blow, and it's going to cost you. I don't know what that means. Is that a veiled threat? Is that it's going to cost me how?
Okay, so John Curtis, what does that mean? Because Chris Herod, we had him on our show after the same thing, primaries in 2022. And Chris Herod said he said the same thing to him. So Curtis, for a congressman threatening people who run against you, that's going to cost you?
Just by stating a fact.
It doesn't matter. Your job is to challenge this. You are running for office. And the sitting representative threatens you. And I know there's people that heard it, and the reason I believe what you're saying is true is because I had Chris Herod tell me the exact same thing. So, John Curtis, is that the Utah way? You like to talk about this, the people in Utah are not going to stand for that. Mm-hmm. I just have such a problem with hypocrisy. So
I do too, and that's what he said. You know, he said in that comment, "You accuse me of felony," and I think this is pretty sad. This Utah, something to the effect of, they don't want to be represented that way. What do you mean? Utahns aren't interested in having somebody stand up and speak truth. Yeah, they don't want that, and that this has given them an insight as to how I might represent them in the United States Senate. Well, I'll wear that as a badge of honor then. You know, John, if you want to. If this has now given us an insight as to how you conduct yourself, we need to send you packing.
Yeah, well, I could pull.
Everybody does.
And I could pull up video from when I was at convention with him, and his wife literally assaulted me. We had to have the security push her back.
Wow.
Folks, this guy has fought hard. You've seen him on our show early on when we first started running. He's been endorsed by Trump. He's been endorsed by Rand Paul. He's been willing to call out the sanctuary state issues. The reason we all know we're a sanctuary state is because of this man. Because ICE came to him after they went to Curtis, they went to every single reps, and none of our reps wanted anything to do with it. They came to Staggs, and Staggs, said, you know what, that's not okay, and it cost him. I can tell you, the governor has made his life hell. I know several other people have a problem with him for exposing that. I have the highest respect for you for standing up. So many of these people running for office say, when I get to DC, I'm gonna fight, but yet they don't fight now. No. And that was the other thing I appreciate about your debate is you are willing to call things out. You are willing to stand up, not just stand up there and be a nice guy. And look, when the Constitution is hanging by a thread, when we literally have criminals of the Constitution in DC and in our backyard here in Utah, making policy that is destroying our country, we need people who are willing to ruffle feathers. So this is a guy who's willing to do it, even being threatened by a sitting congressman to do so. And I just going to ask you guys, there's a couple races that you really have got to get out and fight for. This is one of them. We've got to get Staggs, and there is not a second choice. We're not doing a show on Brad Wilson, but I can promise you, we could do a full show on Brad Wilson. And when I mean a full show, every bit what we're doing today with Curtis. I've got documents and documents about Wilson, so please, he is not an option. Staggs is the choice. I do like Jason Walton. I think he's a great guy. I think in the next race, whatever it is, I think he'll be more prepared, and I'd love to see him go on. But I think you've got Staggs. Obviously, Phil Lyman. We've got to get Phil Lyman in there. For AG, we've got to get Frank Mylar in there. Those are the biggest races. Obviously, there's other races, and we can get into that. But I just want to make sure, get out and fight for these people. We've got 2 weeks left. Get out a sign in your yard. Get out and talk to people. Get on social media and share posts. Freedom comes at a cost, and that cost means taking a stance. And, we appreciate people like Staggs for making a stance and putting his life on the line. And you know what? This is your country, and I'm preaching to the choir. You guys do this stuff. I mean, God bless you guys. Thank you for what you do. I don't need to call you guys out. But call your neighbors out.
That's right.
Get them in the fight. We got to build our army. Thank you for being here, and we're going to transition, and we're going to jump into Curtis.
But candidate Staggs didn't have any proof. He didn't have the receipts. I think we're having two separate conversations. If you want to have a conversation, which you absolutely can, about concerns over, insider trading or information that might get to Congress, that's one conversation. But to stand on a debate stage and accuse somebody of something you have no proof of is just, it's wrong.